Alrighty, boys and girls. So we're going to go over Chapter 5, Section 2, Solving Inequations by Multiplication and Division. So basically for these, what you need to know is we are going to solve these just like you would solve equations. So solve these like equations, same style, same rules, but there's one major exception. And what that is if you divide or multiply by a negative number, you need to switch, or some people like to use the word flip, the symbol, the inequality symbol. So basically, anytime you multiply or divide, if you do it by a negative number, if it's greater than, make it less than. If it's less than, make it greater than, and so forth. Now, the proof for that, just so you don't think that I'm lying to you, let's say we start out with 5 greater than 1. We all agree that's true. 5 is greater than 1. No questions asked. Well, remember, what I do to one side, I do to the other. So let's say I multiplied both sides by negative 2. Negative 2 times 5 is going to be negative 10. Negative 2 times 1 is going to be negative 2. Well, here's the thing. Negative 10 is not greater than negative 2. It's the exact opposite. Negative 2 is greater than negative 10 because negative 2 is further to the right on a number line. Any number further to the right is greater than the thing on the left. Greater is always here, and the least is always there, always. So now that we know this is true, let's take a look at some problems and see how we can solve this stuff. So first of all, let's say we have let's jump into fractions, because people always hate those, so let's get them out of the way and make them easy. Let's say we had something like 1/8 x is less than 84. Alright, now anytime you're trying to get rid of a fraction that touches a variable, if you have a fraction coefficient, just multiply by the reciprocal. And remember, in case you forgot, when you multiply by reciprocals, reciprocal is the fraction flipped. When you do that, it basically makes it cancel out. 1 times 2, 2. 2 times 1, 2. Anytime you have the same number on top and bottom, cancels, it equals 1. So see how this is 1/8 x? All I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this by the reciprocal, which is 8 over 1. I'm going to do that on both sides. That cancels and dies. I get x. On this side, I have 84 times 8. 84 times 8 is 672. It's over 1, and anything divided by 1 is itself, so I can just say x is less than 672, and that would be my answer. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples that actually involve the negatives, just like I warned you about up here. So let's say we have negative 3 over 7r less than 21. Well, I want to get this r alone, and the coefficient is negative 3 over 7. So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, which would be negative 7 over 3. It's just that easy. All you do is you look at the coefficient, multiply by the reciprocal on both sides. This cancels, leaving r. And since I multiplied by a negative, I'm going to flip this around. So it's going to go like that. All I did was just turned it around. And now right here, negative times positive is a negative. 21 times 7 is going to be 147. And on bottom, I have a 3. I can simplify that. If I type that in the calculator, negative 147 divided by 3, I am going to get negative 49. And that's my answer. Now, let's take a look at 2 more, and I'm going to have you actually try them and see how you do. So, let's say we have negative x over 5 less than or equal to 8. And next one, let's say negative 4/3 q greater than negative 10. And yeah, we'll just have you try those ones right there. So go ahead and pause the video, try and give those a shot. Once you think you have the answer, press play, and you can see if you're right. Alright, so this one right here. This one right here, you could think of it as having a coefficient of negative 1/5, or you could just say x is being divided by 5. Either way, you get the same answer. The opposite of dividing by 5 is multiplying by 5. I'm going to do that on both sides. But if I just multiply by 5, these would go away and leave me with negative x. I don't want negative x. I just want to know what x is. So I'm actually going to multiply by negative 5. Because remember, negative times a negative is a positive. It's going to make this go away. So that makes all that cancel, leaving x. Since I multiplied by a negative, I'm going to flip this sign. So it's going to go like that. And 8 times negative 5, that's going to be negative 40. Now, right here on this side, I've got the coefficient of negative 4/3. I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 3/4. That's the reciprocal. This cancels, leaving q. Since I multiply by a negative, I flip that symbol. Negative times negative here is positive, and 10 times 3 is 30. On bottom, I have 4. And 30 divided by 4 is 7.5. So I'm going to have q is less than 7.5. Alright, so moving right along, let's take a look at a couple other ones. Let's say we had 60x greater than 8. Okay, so again, I want to get x alone. So x is being multiplied by 60. Opposite of multiplying by 60 is dividing by 60. So I'm going to do that on both sides. This cancels and leaves x. Since I didn't divide by a negative, I don't flip that sign. And 80/60, I can reduce this to 2/15. You could turn it into a decimal if you want to, but for our purposes, this is fine. So now let's take a look at this one. Negative 7x less than or equal to 147. Now this one, I have to get x alone, I have to divide by negative 7. I'm going to do that on both sides. If I divide by a negative, flip that symbol. This cancels, leaving x. And over here, 147 divided by negative 7, that's going to be negative, and it goes in there 21 times. So there's our answer. So now, let me give you a couple other ones to practice, and let's see how you do. Let's do 8r less than or equal to 64. Let's do negative 12q greater than 15. Let's do negative 1/2 x less than or equal to 5. Alright, so go ahead and pause the video, give these three a shot, then when you're ready, press play, we'll see how you do. Alright, so with this one right here, we've got 8 times r less than or equal to 64. So the opposite of multiplying by r is by 8 is dividing by 8. We're going to do that on both sides. That cancels. We get r. Since we didn't divide by a negative, I don't flip the sign at all. 64 divided by 8 is 8. Right here, I want to get q alone. Q is being multiplied by negative 12. The opposite of that is dividing by negative 12. I do that on both sides. This cancels, leaving q. Since I divided by a negative, I'm going to flip that sign. Here, I've got 15/12. Well, first thing is I can reduce this. I can divide them both by 3. So that would be negative 5/4. And then I can turn this improper into either a decimal or into a mixed fraction, mixed number. So let's say this is negative 1 1/4, or 1 and negative 1.25. Either way is fine. This one right here, I want to get this x alone. X has a negative coefficient, so I'm going to multiply, remember, by the reciprocal. So it's going to be negative times negative 2/1 on both sides. And when I do this, this dies. I get x. Flip this because I multiply by a negative. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And anytime something's over 1, the 1 goes away. So we can just write it just like that. Alright, if you have these ones, you should be pretty set for this section. Alrighty. See you in class.